Today is the day of the SpaceX IPO. They're looking to raise $100 billion, making it larger than any IPO in US history. Its valuation of $2 trillion will be more than every other IPO combined since 2000. And what's weird to me is everybody is doing a media blitz about it and praising Elon all at the same time. Something doesn't seem right.
Why don't we talk first about the SpaceX IPO?
Finally, Alex, I did want to ask you about SpaceX.
The only regret I have is I didn't give him more money. Everything that Elon's part of, you really want to be part of as well.
I dug into some of the data behind the scenes, and I'm telling you, this smells like the dot-com bubble. And it smells like they're going to dump all of these shares on retail. Today I'm going to show you why this Elon SpaceX charade is an opportunity for you to sell the most valuable asset that you own. Don't be tricked into the trap from this $2 trillion heist. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go.
SpaceX going public. Elon Musk is taking it public with shares set to open at $135, making it the largest IPO in history. It could make Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire and make SpaceX employees millionaires in a single day.
Very life-changing. You know, Elon always said that your salary is one thing, but it's the equity that's going to be worth something. And we are all like, yeah, okay, someday. That day is here. It's great.
I don't know who Tom Mueller is, but this is fantastic for him and his family. Bravo to him. But let me give you a news flash. You're not the first employee at SpaceX. And you're not going to benefit from all of the shares in this IPO that you don't own. That's going to go to Peter Thiel, who's expected to make $50 billion from the IPO today. Not to you. With this IPO, Elon is set to become the world's first trillionaire. And it seems like no one else has anything to do right now other than to talk about Elon. In a coordinated effort, all of the Peter Thiel PayPal Mafia members going on the media blitz all at the same time, like Alex Karp from Palantir.
You know, we're so blessed in this country. Like, okay, so, I mean, I spent half my life in Germany. If there was an IPO, GPO, or anything at like the $120 billion range, the whole country would be jumping up and down. Here we have a country where it's like, appears to be one of the largest, if not the largest IPO ever. It's super cool technology, things that no one else have done. And like, I think most Americans, and certainly I hope all entrepreneurs, are rooting for success.
And space? Are you bullish on space? Are you guys doing stuff there?
Well, again, it's very similar to these other debates. People underestimate, it's like bullish on space if the person doing it knows what they're doing. Bullish on Elon and space, yes. Bullish on space, no idea.
I'm not bullish on space, but I am on Elon. If this was Germany, they'd all be praising this IPO. You should be lucky to be an American and to invest in this IPO. Sounds like rhetoric to me. Here's what they're not telling you about this IPO and why it's different than every other IPO in history. They changed all of the rules for Elon.
What we're seeing amongst the index providers that you just mentioned is a plan to include SpaceX and other mega cap IPOs over certain size thresholds in the indices between 5 days after the IPO is priced and 15 days. And wow. That's, I think, a fair balance between ensuring those indices, in particular the names you mentioned, are properly representative of the universe of securities, including these mega cap IPOs, but at the same time have traded for at least a few days in order for the price volatility off the IPO to normalize. Let me jump in here because I think there's a lot of questions and misunderstanding. I thought, and a lot of people think, and maybe this is this is incorrect, that one of the purposes of these rules that places like the S&P, I don't know what the NASDAQ 100 rules are specifically, was to make sure companies had reached certain financial benchmarks or governance kind of hurdles that they felt it was appropriate for them to join these blue chip indices. Is that the case? Yeah, there's only one major provider that has financial thresholds in terms of gaining access to the benchmark, and that is S&P for its system of the 500, the mid cap, and the small cap 600. S&P has proposed as part of its mega cap rules to bypass or waive the profitability test that has historically existed, which required companies to be profitable in the past 12 months. They are going to waive that rule for mega cap IPOs and allow potential entry based on their current proposal, which has not been finalized, at 6 months, or be eligible at 6 months after the IPO. So you can see S&P is a bit of an outlier relative to the other benchmark providers who are making these changes much quicker.
But I guess that I would say, okay, if the idea behind this, and for years, this has been an issue with companies who have wanted to gain entry to the S&P, but had to wait until they were basically mature enough to have earned it based on real earnings and not just market cap. Market cap we can create out of thin air with enough hype.
They changed all of the rules. Usually unprofitable companies would not be allowed in the S&P 500 if they weren't profitable within the last 12 months. Also, they wouldn't be getting listed onto other exchanges in these passive index funds like the NASDAQ and the QQQ in less than a few days. They're going to be able to get onto these indices, having passive funds flowing into them in less than a few weeks, when typically this would take a few quarters. And you know what this means to me? This means that you are exit liquidity. And this is what I believe is causing the malaise in Bitcoin. Everyone, all of these funds, BlackRock, the major institutions, the ETFs, are all selling their shares in Bitcoin and recommending their clients sell shares in Bitcoin in order to get in on these IPOs to dump on retail. They get shares and access to these shares behind the doors that you do not. Bitcoin is actually showing a pattern that it always has shown, a 4-year cycle, in that its top was October of 2025, at the beginning of the last halving, a pattern that is contrary to what the bulls said was broken, with all of the ETFs and all of the institutional flows in Bitcoin treasury companies going in. The 4-year cycle would no longer be a thing, but it's actually still a thing. Speaking of 4-year cycles, everybody knows that I'm a Bitcoiner, but they also know that I'm a sports guy. The next 4-year cycle is kicking off with the FIFA World Cup. Tonight, I'm definitely tuning in for USA versus Paraguay, probably not Canada versus Bosnia. Sorry, Hurley. Like American soccer, I believe that Bitcoin is only up from here. Hard money is down because everyone is trying to get into the newest, latest, and greatest, hottest thing with the IPOs coming out. You can see that Bitcoin and gold are the 2 worst performing assets of every major asset class in the world right now. If you want to learn about the gold and silver sell-off, then check out Hurley's latest episode from yesterday. I'm smacking sats like this honey badger, like my kids chewing with their mouths open every single time they eat. Because Bitcoin is about to have a rebound for the ages like OG Anunoby from the Knicks. There was angels in the outfield and there was definitely angels in the garden on Wednesday. Bitcoin's price is about to rebound. And here's why, if you're not distracted by this IPO noise. The bottom was likely 60K.
Firming up. And so if we get sort of a dog shit ceasefire between the U.S. And Iran, and things slowly improve in terms of the amount of ships that go through the strait, and we don't progress to an escalatory World War III and people just bombing each other left, right, and center, then I think that on balance, Bitcoin probably bottomed at 60,000. And myself and Maelstrom will turn a bit more constructive on risk going forward.
There's a lot of factors which are causing Bitcoin's price to be down. How about a war in Iran? How about oil going through the roof? How about the cost of living being so high right now? And even with this is still one of the best bear markets ever, according to people like Anthony Pompliano.
But one of the things that we have seen is that this is one of the best bear markets. And usually you don't want to celebrate when an asset is going down. But what we have seen is that we are starting to hit a number of metrics that historically have actually signaled we're near the bottom of a bear market. But it's doing it without the 80% drawdown. Now, Bitcoin is still down 50+%. And so it doesn't feel good for the people who are holding Bitcoin. But I do think that these bear markets are getting shallower, which also means that the volatility overall of the asset are dampening. And a lot of that is because you have the institutional participation. You know, if you go and you look at Bitcoin itself, one of the things that I think people are starting to talk about, there's a guy, Benjamin Cohen, who's come out and said the percent of Bitcoin that is held that is underwater is now larger than the percent of Bitcoin that is held that is in profit. And that usually is a pretty good signal that we are near the bottom of a bear market. And so I think that a lot of the Bitcoiners are starting to say, okay, you know, it's drawn down enough. I'm going to start accumulating now.
This should give you a lot of confidence as to why you shouldn't sell. You shouldn't sell your Bitcoin at the bottom. And you should never sell your Bitcoin in general. Just borrow against your Bitcoin with partners like Ledn, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, which allow you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin and not getting any capital gains in the process. Ledn allows you to post your Bitcoin as collateral, and then you can borrow up to 50% of the loan to value of that Bitcoin in the platform at half the rate of a credit card. Fiat gets into your account in less than 6 hours. Go to learn.ledn.al/simply or use the link in description to get started. One thing that people do that are prudent investors is that they're fearful when the market is greedy and greedy when the market is fearful. One of the ways that Bitcoiners do that is they looked at ways that they can protect their assets when the asset is down, when it's underloved and overlooked. So they're getting with coaches right now. They're making sure their OPSEC is good. And so they're working with a coach at the Bitcoin way. People that can help them run their node, manage their node and their keys privately, and coach their family up on exactly how to do this so when stuff hits the fan, they're ready. Go to thebitcoinway.com/partner/Dante Cook to get started, and they'll hook you up. Back to the Knicks game for a second. They led for just 53.8 seconds the entire game. This shows you what can happen when an asset begins to turn, when momentum comes at the back of an asset. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Bitcoin to $1 million isn't the next moonshot according to analysts. It's just the next move. Bitcoin has had 6 separate moves of 10x or more. From 10 cents to $1 from 2010 to 2011. From $1 to 10 in February of 2011 to June 2011. From 1,000 to 10,000 from November of 2013 to November of 2017. From 10,000 to 100,000 from December of 2017 to November of 2024. Every time it feels absurd and every time it feels impossible, but it always happens. Hold Bitcoin and don't be distracted by the noise of these short-term cycles. And this isn't just about Bitcoin. This is every financial asset. When things crash, people tend to sell and they never get back in. Listen to this clip from Barry Ritholtz talking about all of his clients and the people that he knew in the financial industry and asset management business that sold in the 2008 financial crisis. From the 50% drawdown that they experienced, they would now be worth millions of dollars if they hadn't have sold. Listen to this example.
People panic sell into a market crash. Something like a third of them never return to equities. So let's just use either the 2020 34% pandemic sell-off or more likely the 08-09 57% market crash. Imagine selling down 57%, not getting back into equities and watching 15% a year compound over that entire period. It's shocking. So you take a $1 million portfolio, you're out at like 450,000 net worth. If you never would have sold it, it would be worth 10x today. It would be $4.5 billion.
It would be worth $4.5 million. So the real lesson is when everyone panics and sells, don't be like Wimby and listen to Fat Joe, who's telling him to lean back on his free throw. You need to lean in and follow through when everyone else is panicking and selling. The valuations for this stuff are insane. 6 months ago, everyone said Jeff Bezos is coming out of retirement for a startup called Prometheus. He raised $6 billion with just an idea and no employees to build the engineer of the future. Just yesterday, they announced that he's raising another $12 billion at a $41 billion valuation, creating billions of dollars of paper wealth out of thin air. And with SpaceX raising $100 billion today, I want you to understand the amount of capital that's flowing into AI and data centers and the future of compute. You need to understand that this is why the Bitcoin market is depressed on top of the war in Iran and other conflicts in the world and inflation being high. That isn't a legitimate reason to sell Bitcoin. This is reminding me of the dot-com bubble, and I'm going to do a 2-part episode showing you exactly why and the signs of how these things are lining up and adding up on Sunday and on Tuesday for my next 2 episodes. The exit liquidity is you. And this is the time when you need to have conviction. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. And if you're confident and bullish in Bitcoin, you need to find ways to continue stacking and earning more sats in any way possible. And one of the best ways of doing that and the lowest cost to acquire Bitcoin is through Bitcoin mining. But don't do it on your own. Work with a partner like SAS Mining. They'll set up your mining rigs, they'll set up your wallets, they'll host everything for you. You don't have to worry about repairing a machine. You don't have to worry about getting up in the middle of the night or worrying about the rates of electricity. They handle all that for you. Use the QR code to get started with SAS Mining today. Hope you enjoy the World Cup. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. I'm out.